Cool.
Now, are you prepared for the end of the world? Happy, happy. Well, last week the government advised us all to have at least 3 days' worth of food and supplies in case of an emergency, such as a natural disaster or a pandemic or a power cut.
Well, there are some people known as preppers who have been stocking up on essentials for years and they're ready for anything. Psychologist and mum of two, Dr. Sarita Robertson, is one of those people and has months' worth of supplies for her and her family.
Yeah, we're going to be talking to Sarita in a moment. First, we can go live to the biggest prepping shop in the UK to speak to its owner, Lincoln Miles. Morning, Lincoln.
Morning, thanks for having us on.
Oh, mate, thank you for having us, and thanks to your friend there as well. So, listen, where do we start? How did you end up with a prepping shop, with a prepper shop?
I mean, we've been going 10 years now. We was the first prepping shop in Europe. The concept's been huge in America for sort of decades, so we sort of realised there was a huge gap in the market and people quite simply wasn't prepared. So, we brought the concept over to Europe about 10 years ago and we've just been pushing the message out ever since.
Yeah.
Well, Lincoln, you know, back then, 10 years ago, I bet some people actually laughed at you, but who's laughing now? Because business has been absolutely booming for you, hasn't it?
100%. If we look back sort of 4 or 5 years ago, it was considered this sort of real extreme concept. And, you know, look at these people that are preparing and why they're stocking up. But we found when coronavirus happened and there was queues outside supermarkets, all of a sudden, everyone wanted to be a prepper. And the whole concept we found has changed, the whole narrative has switched. And I think everybody at the minute realises that it does make sense to be prepared. And obviously the government have caught on to that, hence their recent recommendations that everybody should have sort of 3 days emergency kit at all times.
Yeah, you're right. So, obviously, you know, having lived through what we've all lived through, I think people understand that they need to be better prepared, and so no one wants to see those sort of panic buying in supermarkets and so forth, do they? So, is the definition of what a prepper is, or the mentality, has that shifted now? Do you see a lot just sort of like regular people coming in?
Oh, 100%. We always say if you was to walk down our high street, 9 out of 10 people could be a prepper and you wouldn't notice any difference. If we look back years ago, it was sort of 90% of our audience was middle-aged males, whereas now we are sort of a 50-50 male-female split. We cover all age groups. So it really is, prepping has become fully normalised. And like we say, most people are preppers and you wouldn't notice any difference.
Lincoln, I thought that was a mannequin next to you, and then I just saw it move. I'm so sorry, that's an actual person. Hello.
Team Lincoln.
Well, welcome to This Morning. Lincoln...
So our wonderful assistant.
Oh, well, welcome to This Morning. Lincoln, can you talk us through the essentials of what a prepper would buy there?
Well, look, the essentials we always start is food and water. Without food and water, you're not going to be surviving any emergency. So we sell, for instance, these are wet meals. So these are military MREs, they're called, meals ready to eat. And we sell these in huge volumes down to single meals. We sell month kits up to 3-year kits on a pallet. But food is essential, and we would always recommend everyone keeps a month worth of food at all times. We sell things like big water purification, lifesaver jerry cans, where you can drink if you think of the worst, dirtiest, most infected water, you can run it through that and your family can drink safe water at all times. We sell self-inflating sandbags. And this, for example, this is one of our, I suppose you'd call it the more extreme. This is our hazmat suits and respirators. So, you know, we can help people prepare for power cuts, flooding, food emergencies, all the way up to full nuclear war, essentially. So, yeah, we literally cover all bases of products.
Lincoln, your friend there is looking great and modelling it very well. But what sort of things does the hazmat suit prevent you from getting?
So these are all military specs. So these are the British military CBRN suits. So these, you know, chemicals, viruses, but these will go up all the way up to sort of nuclear threats. So these are, you know, the top of the top. These will protect against virtually anything you could ever experience in your lifetime.
And in terms of cost, how much would a monthly pack cost, and how much is that natty hazmat suit? What's that going for?
Honestly, I think the biggest surprise people find is we hear a lot is, you know, people can't afford to buy this sort of stuff, but we sell, you know, a month kit is about £150 to £180 of the military MREs. But they will last 25 years. You can literally put it away in a garage or a cupboard, forget about it. You know, a respirator, you're talking between £30 and £50 for a military spec respirator. The hazmat suits are about £22. So, you know, one thing we find, like water filters, you can get them for as low as £20, we sell them. So we Yeah, I think a lot of people view like the obstacle to prepping is the financial side and that people haven't got spare money to spend on it. But honestly, I think it costs a lot less than people would imagine it does off the bat.
Thank you, Lincoln.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Yeah, really, really helpful.
Who's your buddy? Let's give him a shout out while we're here.
This is Kai, the warehouse manager at Prepper Shop.
Hey, cheers,
well
mate.
done.
Appreciate it. Have a good day, Lincoln. Thank you.
Thanks, Lincoln. We're joined by Sarita Robinson now, and you've actually got a psychology and human survival, haven't you? And you are a prepper. Can you talk us through, Sarita, what sort of things that you prep for and what you've got in your cupboards?
Absolutely. So prepping is just preparing for emergencies or disasters that might happen. So for 25 years, I had a pandemic kit under my sink, which finally came in handy in March 2020. But since then, it's things like an energy blackout. So maybe a fire in a substation, you use electricity. Down in Devon, we've seen cryptosporidia and a loss of water supply. So it's just thinking about things that might go wrong and then preparing for those eventualities.
And I think it's important to say that we're not trying to scare the nation here,
No.
But I remember when it was COVID and you went into a supermarket and there was nothing on the shelves.
awful,
And
isn't it?
for years, I've laughed at these preppers, and at that moment, I thought, who's laughing now?
Same,
you know,
100%.
yeah. And now I do prep myself. So yeah, we're not trying to scare anybody. We're just saying you
Well, the
will
thing
feel
is,
better
well,
with.
If you look around here, right, this is just our art department put together. Like, a lot of this stuff you would have in your cupboard anyway, right? So it's not...
That's right.
It's not taking a mass... Is this all your stuff?
This is all my stuff, yeah. So,
Oh, amazing.
yeah.
Thanks for bringing it in.
I know, right? I feel a little bit naked without it being at home, but it's all my kit. And it's just simple things like, think about kitchen. How would you prepare for an emergency in the kitchen? A little fire extinguisher, fire blanket, burns kit. It's very cheap to buy, and once you've got it, you've got it. But if you happen to, have an incident, you burnt yourself, then you can treat that before you have to go to A&E. So it's just about thinking about what could go wrong, and then having that mindset to think, yeah, I can deal with this. I've got the kit ready.
That's the thing. If you've got first aid kit and you've got a way of purifying water, you're kind of halfway there, really, aren't you?
Yep, so the thing that I love best is the water-to-go bottle. There are other filtration devices, available. So basically, you can fill that with water, like rainwater or any sort of water that you come across. It's got a carbon filter in it, and you can just drink it and it'll filter as you go.
I've got one of those.
Yeah,
I've got two of them, actually. One for
they're
me, one
great
for
for reducing plastic waste as well if you're going abroad and, you don't have to rely on buying bottles and bottles of water. You can just get your water to go.
I've just invested in one of these as well.
Absolutely, yes. This is a little radio, so it's a little winds-up radio, so you can generate the charge. It's got a little battery on it. I think it would very slowly charge your mobile phone as well.
But radio too.
And it's got a light on it, which is great.
It's got a light on it,
really good bit
but
of
one
kit,
of the things that we might find is that electricity goes out, you can't charge your mobile. How are you going to stay in contact with, any warnings or messages that are coming out from the government? Tune your radio in, you're sorted.
Can I just ask you, Sarita, psychology and human survival, how did you get into it?
Yeah, so I think I've come from a family of preppers. My mum was from a very remote little island called Mauritius. She came over in the 1970s to work in the NHS, but she remembered, back in her childhood when there'd been a cyclone, her dad, my grandfather, had lost his income, the boat, the house, everything.
So house,
and it's,
right?
Yeah, and it's just that realisation that actually we're very, in the Western world, cosseted from these things that can go wrong. We don't think about how suddenly they can go wrong, but she was obviously very aware of that. So always had a good stockpile of food.
Like you said, whether it's a disaster like the pandemic or something like even something man-made like our water problems at the moment. There's more tangible reasons now to be prepared than ever before, aren't there?
I think so. I mean, if you look throughout history, we've always had challenges, even in the UK, and the pandemic was a really good reminder that things can go wrong and can go wrong quite quickly. And if you're prepared for them, then actually when that moment happens, you're not going to be in a situation where you feel that things are going out of control because you have actively prepared.
Sarita, just quickly, what is that?
So this is a really great gadget. This is an emergency hammer, and basically just keep it in your car, and if you do get in, unfortunately, to something like a traffic accident, then it will cut your seatbelt and it will smash the window.
I saw one of these advertised, because basically modern cars, you can't, if the worst comes to worst, you can't really get out as easy.
I didn't know that.
It can be quite tricky with the electrics if they fail, so yeah.
So this bag is always on hand for you to take, is all packed, is ready to go when you need it?
That's my go bag. Now, everybody thinks a go bag is a really complicated thing, and they might steer away from not creating one because they don't know what needs to go in it. But I say that, you know, young parents actually have go bags with them all the time. It's a nappy sack, basically, but for adults. So all that's got in is a change of clothes, a first aid kit, my little radio, water supply, and just things that would help me get through 48 hours away from home a little bit more comfortable.
Sarita,
Thank you, Sarita.
Also,
Thank
Sarita,
you
if
very
worst comes
much.
to worst, we'll come around your house, because this little steak sauce and some nice
you.
pudding, we are in for a good feed up there.
Got to prep well.
Exactly.
Thank you.